What's up, Gould Miners? Today we welcome Chris Kline to the show. Chris is the co-founder and COO of Bitcoin IRA, an online platform that allows you to invest into cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum while using tax-advantaged IRAs to do so. Bitcoin IRA has been the industry leader, pioneering a new way for people to invest into cryptocurrency using retirement accounts. And in today's episode, Chris really helps synthesize in our minds the benefits of retirement accounts plus the benefits of cryptocurrency and why these work so harmoniously together. We kickstart the episode with Chris explaining exactly how self-directed IRAs work and how his foundation in helping setting up self-directed IRAs for others eventually helped him launch Bitcoin IRA. Later on in the episode, Chris really hammers away at the current inflation crisis that we are experiencing as a country and how Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies can serve as a hedge against inflation. And finally, Chris dives deep by giving us some real-life examples into how crypto has served as a way for folks to achieve their retirement goals way faster than they could have ever anticipated, and how his platform at Bitcoin IRA has helped them achieve that. Lots of gold nuggets in this episode, everyone, and this is one of my favorite podcast episodes of this season. Chris is a treasure trove of knowledge, tons of gold nuggets in this one, and sure, this isn't your everyday real estate investing advice, but crypto is here to stay. And as Chris mentions in the episode, it's up to all of us to stay on that cutting edge to make sure that we don't get left behind. So you really owe it to yourself to dive into this episode and get educated. So without further ado, everyone, let's welcome to the show, Chris Kline.
The Gould Mine Podcast.
Chris, welcome to the Gould Mine.
Thanks for having me, Danny. It's a pleasure to be here, buddy.
This is great, man. I'm really excited. We haven't had a lot of crypto guys on the show. And, I know that this is primarily a real estate investing podcast, but, I'd be remiss if we didn't have people like you come in here from time to time just to spice things up a little bit. I like to keep things spicy here. So why don't we just start with the classic, how did you get into this space? Because as I recall, you started out you were an IRA at some point, right? Or not IRA, like an investment advisor, right? At some point, and then you made the transition into founding Bitcoin IRA, right? So I'd love to know kind of what kind of spearheaded that journey, kind of got that journey started, and where we're at today.
Yeah, no, I mean it was kind of a nature of necessity too. So I'm not a financial advisor, and I don't pretend to be one even on television, but I got really good at, yeah, I know, right? But I got really good at understanding, and my partners and I, all of us in the business, got really good at understanding how self-directed IRAs work, which I'm sure there's probably folks in your audience that have used a self-directed IRA to buy a piece of property or use it to invest in some property.
Yep.
So early on, we sharpened our teeth with LLC IRAs, gold and silver IRAs, crowdfunding IRAs, real estate IRAs, all kinds of things. And then the challenge came across our desk in 2015. Hey, could you put Bitcoin in something like this? And at the point of time, I had no idea what Bitcoin was, honestly, true to heart. And so I had to go down that rabbit hole, or as they call it, the orange pill is what people call it in our space, is like go and learn a little bit about Bitcoin and watch what kind of gets you excited about it. Because there's a lot of things that get people excited about cryptocurrency, just like things that get people excited about real estate. And so I went down that rabbit hole in 2015. We came to market in 2016. Our first client was Ed Moy, the former director of the United States Mint, which I thought was pretty cool because he was the guy that arguably created the most amount of paper money at that time, which was 2009 to 2012. And now let's think about, I mean, they've made a lot more money printing it. And that's why real estate guys are doing so well, right? Is because we keep injecting cash into the marketplace from COVID and beyond. And so, so that's kind of the inception of it. Does that help answer that for you, Danny?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Just to give people an overview, right, of self-directed IRAs, because sure, there's a percentage of folks that might know what that is, but for those that aren't, and since it's seemingly integral to your business strategy, can you briefly define what a self-directed IRA is for those that are maybe not in the know?
In the simplest terms, it's the same thing as your regular IRA at Charles Schwab, Fidelity, etc. But the ability to invest in alternatives exists. So at Fidelity and Charles Schwab and those places, they're going to put you in stocks or some kind of derivative. So they'll put you in REITs, they'll put you in Bitcoin ETFs, they'll put you in gold ETFs, they'll put you in all these things. What a self-directed IRA is saying, you know what? I think I'm going to do this directly. And a lot of folks like to hold the real asset itself. And that's what it's all about. We have folks beyond Bitcoin that hold farm tractors. There's a guy, my favorite story is a guy that's from Kentucky, and he lives around all this farm land, and he used his IRA to buy John Deere tractors. And those John Deere tractors are leased out to all of his fellow farmers in the neighborhood, right? There's all kinds of farmers down there. And he does it with his IRA as a business so that the not only the investment is tax deferred, so if there's an appreciation of the John Deere tractor, but also the dividends that are created from said John Deere tractor are also put back right into the IRA in the tax umbrella setting. So you have all the same things, like number of contributions, the tax deferment, the tax savings, et cetera, but you're doing it with assets that you can't find at a regular traditional house. Does that make sense?
Yep, 100%, 100%. And what would now, you kind of answered it, right? But these are tax advantaged vehicles, right? And so presumably, right, when you're setting up this IRA, and by the way, I know how this works, but I'm trying to educate the people that don't.
Of course.
Right? So when you're setting up this self-directed IRA, right, for those that don't know, you are effectively doing this post. So this isn't like a Roth IRA, right?
No, it's everything. So you have traditionals, you have Roths, SEPs, and simples. You have all the options. So if you were to go, if you say, let's say you're looking for a Roth, which is very popular with crypto folks, and you want that tax post-tax money, right? You're not going to get that advantage on the taxes on the front side, but on the back side, you're going to get tax-free distributions. So you can turn something from like Ed Moy from $5,000 to over $500,000. And when you take distribution, you're going to have zero taxes. You can also do with traditionals, where if you put $5,000 in this year, you're going to lower your tax bill by $5,000, or at least your tax assessment. So if you made $100,000 and you put $5,000 in an IRA, now you have $95,000 as your earned income. So all those same vehicles that exist in IRAs, it's just, hey, let's do it with different assets. That's all it is.
That's interesting. I actually thought that you could only do it post. I thought that you could only do it like a post tax account. I didn't think that you could do like you can do pre-tax, post-tax account.
SEPs,
Yeah.
Which SEPs are probably pretty popular for your audience, Danny, because they're self-employed, right? If they are running their own, like you said, you're running your own real estate mogul, right? You're a real estate mogul. So you could put more aside. So with a Roth and a traditional, you're limited to $7,000 if you're under 50, 8,000, or 7,500 if you're under 50, 8,000 if you're over 50. Nowadays, it keeps changing every year. It keeps going up. So you should check with your tax advisor. But that's your limit. With a SEP, you actually have the ability to put upwards of $56,000 aside in tax deferment, which that's what everybody's looking for, right? At the end of the day.
Right. Yeah. It's super interesting, man. And, it's funny, is like, there's so many people out there that just have no idea that they can invest into alternatives with an IRA. They just assume like, I can only like have it in like public equities or like bonds or like whatever, derivative of like the public markets, right? Like they don't even understand that you can invest in a private investments with IRAs. And I think the education is even nowadays pretty sparse out there on like how to go about doing that. So you worked, you set those up for people then, Chris, is what you were doing before? Okay.
That's what we were doing for real estate, LLCs, all kinds of derivatives. And then it came across the desk to do Bitcoin, and we went down the rabbit hole and figured out how to make this work. Early on, obviously, the first client, Ed Moy, he bought his Bitcoin for $250 a Bitcoin. So, I mean, if you know where we're at today, 98,000, quite a difference, right? It's quite a difference.
Wow. And that's all tax free.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. Holy cow.
It's a tool that so a lot of folks don't understand that actually the Roth was named after a senator from Delaware. Of course, it's Delaware, right?
Of course. Right.
State in the nation. And he was realizing we were in not just a retirement crisis, but we were in a savings crisis. Americans weren't saving money. And this was 40 years ago, 50 years ago. So he went to Congress and said, hey, I want to propose that we give people a different option for retirement savings. Let's not just give them the tax deferment, which is a traditional, which is let's take it away. Let's also give them the ability to invest tax-free. And it went off like gangbusters, right? I mean, most folks would love to have a Roth IRA in their portfolio. And that's what I think it's Edward J. Roth from the state of Delaware did for us about 50 years ago. So yeah, it's an exciting time.
It's amazing, man. So let's walk into let's dive into the semantics, right? Like the nuts and bolts of Bitcoin IRA. So effectively what you're doing is you're helping folks set up tax advantaged cryptocurrency accounts, correct?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Now, can they choose what cryptocurrencies they're invested into? Do you choose? Do you provide services on helping them choose? Because people, I don't know how many cryptocurrencies are out there, but like if you're not like Bitcoin's the big one and Ethereum is kind of like there too, but like, and there's a bunch of other ones that people don't really even know about. So what does that service look like? Or how do you help people kind of discern what the best options are for them and how much autonomy do they have versus like how much input do you have?
So first you have 85 currencies to choose from right now on our platform. So you have Bitcoin, you have Ethereum, you have XRP, and you can go all the way down the list to the 85 that are there. There are thousands, right? It's kind of overwhelming at the end of the day. Like even myself, dude, I've been doing this for 10 years and every year more coins come out. And I'm like, well, I got to do my due diligence. I got to do my research. I got to learn these things. But yeah, you have complete autonomy too. So you have 85 coins and you have a complete autonomy. It's self-directed. So you can choose what coin is best for you and you can log in on our phone app and you can buy, sell, trade 24/7. Because that's the other thing. Cryptocurrency runs at a 24/7, 365 clock. It's open on Christmas. It's open on Easter. It's open on your birthday, my birthday. It does not turn off, which is part of the challenge of cryptocurrency. So we try to build a platform that gave you ultimate access to take control of what you're looking for.
So almost like an E-Trade for
crypto.
Almost like E-Trade for crypto. Interesting. Yep. That's really cool, man. That's really cool. Now, in terms of setting up the IRA, right? Because now here's something that people are going to find fascinating, right? Like how easy is it to move, say, your IRA from Schwab to Bitcoin IRA?
Pretty straightforward. So the example you gave is an IRA to IRA transfer. There are 3 ways to fund a Bitcoin IRA. You can do it via contribution, which we were just talking about. You have that annual limit that you can put in. We set it up so you can link your bank account via Plaid, and then you can put your money in for the year. The second is what you were just mentioning, a traditional or a IRA to IRA transfer. And those are Charles Schwab, Fidelity, et cetera. Those take, honestly, somewhere between 2 to 3 days. It's not a lot of time. Where it gets a little bit tough, and a lot of folks have these, is if they have an old 401k from a past employer. So let's say you worked somewhere, you contributed, the company contributed, now there's money sitting there. You have to request a check, and then the check has to get mailed to you. And then we give you a FedEx envelope so you can mail it to us so we can deposit it in the bank account or the IRA account. And then you have like 403Bs, which if you have a 403B, you're either a nurse, a fireman, or a policeman. So thank you for your service. But that takes you have to do some internal paperwork. And then the worst, but we help people with this, is pensions, which aren't as popular as they used to be. But if you have an old pension from somewhere, like a deferred comp plan or something like that, we can move those over as well. It's just, here's what we do that I think is really special, Danny, is we're crypto guys. So if you log on to Robinhood or Coinbase or any of the places that are offering crypto or crypto ETFs these days, you don't have a person to talk to. They just give you a platform, log in, do X, Y, Z. I focused on, and my partners and I focused on real crypto, real people. So you can literally call our number 877-936-9715 right now. And within about 120 seconds, you will be on the phone with somebody that's been doing this for almost 10 years, helping folks move their accounts over. We're here to help. People want this, but it also kind of is a chore. It's kind of a pain, right? Some of these groups, even with the IRA to IRA transfer, like Edward Jones requires that you have to sign the documents, wet signature, and fax, and you can't fax them. Like, we know all these little rules to help you move your money efficiently. And that's what we're dedicated to, is just helping folks out.
Yeah, it's really interesting, man. This is really interesting. Now, there's so many different ways, so many different directions I could take this right now.
Take it wherever you want, Danny. I'm here, buddy.
Well, no, and I'm just trying to like gather up all my questions and thoughts in my head, because I've got a lot of them. But let's start with the target consumer, right?
Okay.
So where are you seeing the majority of the business come from right now, in terms of like your average user?
So back when we started this, the assumption would have been this is a young man or woman's game, right? Youngsters want this.
Yep.
It wasn't the case. We got a year and a half into this, actually 2 years, and I was on CNBC because we figured out that 75% of our clients were born before 1976. So
really,
these are actually on the precipice of retirement, trying to, and part of that, Danny, is we're in a retirement crisis as a country. Northwest Mutual came out with a study in 2019. They surveyed a couple thousand people, and they asked them, how much money do you think you need to retire comfortably? And back then, pre-COVID, pre-everything, was about, I think it was like $750,000 to $800,000.
Interesting.
Fast forward 3 years. They just did the report again in 21 or 22, and it's now $1.5 million. And God knows where it's going to be in 2 years.
Right.
Maybe 2 million, because people are realizing life is getting more expensive.
Yep.
We're not saving for retirement. Edward Roth would be so upset with us right now. He gave us this amazing tool 50 years ago, and we're not saving because why? Why aren't we saving, Danny? It's obvious. Rents are going up. Mortgages are going up. Cost of living is going up. Groceries are going up. Higher education is going up. You went to Stanford, right?
Yep.
How are those students doing?
Yeah. They're
rough, right?
They're still coming. Yeah.
I went to the University of Colorado Boulder, and unfortunately, I probably could have went to Stanford with you. I was a valedictorian in my high school. I was like the best kid that came out of my high school. Middle American kid, Aurora, Colorado, middle class family, and I worked my tail off. I really did, and I got to the point where I had to start accepting offers for college. Princeton was on the list. Stanford was on the list, but my parents were like, "Hey, buddy, we're going to go bankrupt if you want to go to school here." And I was like, and it was a hard thing for me to deal with, but I was fortunate that they told me that. So I went to the University of Colorado Boulder, great school. It's still a great school for anybody, go Buffs. But I was able to save a whole bunch of money. And what I did was I was a bartender throughout the school year. So I worked Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, and Sundays sometimes for football Sundays. And I paid off my loans as fast as they could come in. And I worked summers, I worked construction, I was a caddy for a golf course, I was a bartender, I was a dishwasher, whatever it could to make more money. But that was, I'm 40 now, almost. I'm going to be 40 next month. That was a long time ago, right? It's 20 years ago. It's a lot harder today for everybody. So we're sitting here with student loan debts. So what's the one thing we stopped doing? Well, first, our savings plans dwindle, right? They say that the average American has less than $500 in savings. So one cataclysmic event, they get sick, they get hurt, they get fired, and 2 weeks later they're in trouble. We saw this with COVID, right? Immediately, companies, not just people, but companies were going bankrupt within a matter of a couple of weeks. So
I know,
we're
it's
in
crazy,
this place
man.
where there's a retirement crisis because we have no money left to save. There's no money left to save, but yet you're not going to work past 70. I hope. I don't think I'm going to make it past 70 as far as working. Like
I hope I can work past 70. I'm not the average guy though, but like I'm kind of like, dude, I hope I'm in a physically like good enough place to where I can keep going until freaking like 85, dude. Like I want to just like, I want to tear it up for a long time.
I want to get out, and we'll talk about this in the golden nugget later, but I will tell you what my golden nugget is later, because I'm a very serious entrepreneur. I believe, and I'm very proud of what I do, but I got a family. I got a young daughter. She's 11. I got a beautiful wife, and I also want to give time back to them. There's only the scarcest asset we have in life. And I always joke, other than Bitcoin, which is a very scarce asset, this 21 is our time. And we can only do so much with it. And so you got to think about an average American. I got friends that are uber rich and I got friends that are middle class. And everybody along that spectrum is struggling with, am I going to retire? How am I going to retire? What's my retirement life going to look like? Is it going to be comfortable, or am I going to have to move out of my house and live in senior assisted living and live off Medicaid and Medicare, which are all great government things that we've built over the years. But what's my retirement going to look like? And most people are terrified. Whether they tell you or not, they're terrified. My dad, I love my dad to death. He's 63 years old. When I was a kid, my mom was a mortgage broker. My dad was a construction guy. He was a contractor. And so, you know, the real estate game, 2008, 2007, nasty. And there was a lot of droughts before that. So my dad now, he runs maintenance for big apartment complexes in Arizona. And he's done really good for himself. He's a very talented guy. But is he going to retire by 70, 75, 80? And you're talking about, that's labor. That's blue collar work. Can you do that work at that age? You and I can sit back here and we can do podcasts. I'll do podcasts till I'm 90. But like, can I go and build a home at 90? Hell no, I can't build a home at 90. So this is the world that we're living in today, is this retirement crisis. And that I think is what drives people looking for, and I don't like to call let's catch up on retirement. I hate those words. Let's just get started with retirement. Let's build something. Let's start. And so the people that were, like I was saying at the beginning of this, 1976 or younger, 75 or older, 75%, they're looking for an opportunity to hedge themselves against inflation. It really comes down to inflation at the end of the day, which is beneficial for some asset classes, not beneficial for other asset classes, right? If you own a home and inflation drives it from $1 million home to $1.5 million home, and you can sell it and have a buyer and make that return, awesome. But if you are just sitting on $1 million of cash and an annuity, or even just like a money market account, and inflation is going to crush your savings. It's going to crush your savings because let me know, Danny, am I getting a little too into the weeds here? But
no,
inflation is not about the inflation today. We talked about this target rate of 3%, right? But you have to take it collectively. Cumulatively is really the number. So if last year was 3, this year it's 3, the year next is 3. So now you're up to 9% in just 3 years of inflation. So if you had $100,000,
it's actually more than that, right?
Account,
because it's compounding, right?
Yes,
so it's actually more.
It's the opposite. So we all love compounding interest thanks to the Oracle of Omaha, right? We all talk about compound interest. But there's a beast behind that, which is the compounding effect of inflation. And that's what is really killing people, is that every year they go into to retirement, it's not a new year of 3%. It's the last 10 years of 3% plus the new year of 3%. And we've been doing this since the 1970s when we took ourselves off the gold standard. I'm a professor at heart, so like I can go down all kinds of those things, but that's really what's driving folks, man. Now, it's not just the old folks that are into our product. We have nerds. I call them nerds. They're retired NASA scientists. They're retired IBM guys. And they were like, hey man, I want to enjoy the last 20 or 30. So they're into the, and then you have youngsters too. Our minimum investment is $1,000. You can do up to we said $7,000 to $8,000 as an annual contribution. We make it so you can do it just $1,000. Just get off zero is our ultimate goal. Get some exposure to Bitcoin or cryptocurrency in general. Does that make sense, Danny?
100%. Yeah, it absolutely makes sense. Now, on the topic of inflation, you know, how does cryptocurrency specifically, because we've talked about IRA, these are tax advantaged vehicles, but when it comes specifically to Bitcoin, how does crypto kind of fit the narrative of fighting inflation?
Yeah, great question. With Bitcoin, and I'm only speaking about Bitcoin right now because it's a specific blockchain with a specific asset class and a specific set of rules.
Yep.
It comes down to one word: scarcity. So there are only 21 million Bitcoin that'll ever be created. We're at 19.5 million have been made. You and I, well, actually, I don't know how old you are, but I know I'm probably not going to live to see the last Bitcoin be created because there's a scarcity component to this. So unlike the US dollar or any fiat currency in the world, what have they done every time things have gotten tough? Well, first in 71, we took ourselves off the gold standard. So it used to be you could take a $20 bill and bring it to the government, to the bank, and you could get an equal amount of gold at its rate. And there was like an interchangeability. I think that's a word. There's an interchange concept between gold and the dollar. We went off that standard in 1970. Since then, we have printed our way out of every single problem. This is the part that gets me most excited about Bitcoin, Danny, is that we are scarce. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin that ever will be created. We made probably $21 million of US dollars off the printers of the Federal Reserve since we started this conversation today. Like in the short 30 minutes, the Federal Reserve has probably created $21 million worth of money. It might even be faster than that.
You're
so
right.
Scarcity is the ultimate. Why does inflation happen? Too much money supply. I'm a student of political science and international affairs from the great state of Colorado and the University of Colorado. This is how things get diluted over time. If we just keep printing and printing and printing, and it's all about interest rates, right? Because you can take money into the system or you can take money out of the system. You lower interest rates, you print money, you put money into the system. It's free capital. That's why things got crazy in 21. Real estate got crazy in 21, right? I mean, some of the valuations and the people walking into the houses, you were getting cash deals that were competing with each other at 20, 30% above asking, right? It was crazy. Same was happening for every other asset class except Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is scarce. You can only get so many of them. And we haven't actually hit the reality of that, because the other piece is scarcity plus what I like to call halving. Well, I don't call it halving. The world calls it halving. So with money, if you print US dollars, let's say you're a senator that votes to make a stimulus package, and everybody in your constituency gets a check for $1,000. What are the odds that they're going to reelect you in a year or 2 years? Pretty good, right? Because you put money in their pocket. With Bitcoin, we actually go the other direction, where we reward producers. So we say, hey, the more every step you get closer and closer to that 21 million, we're going to cut the reward for making that Bitcoin in half. And that's the block reward. So for every new block, it used to be 50 Bitcoin, then it was 25 Bitcoin. We're all the way down to 3.125 Bitcoin for the block reward. And in a few years, we're going to be cut that in half, cut that in half, cut that in half as you get closer and closer and closer. At the same time, to produce the Bitcoin is not as easy as pressing print, which I pressed print for our talking notes today, right? Very easy. Press print.
Yeah.
That's money. You can print money all day. Everybody does it. You can't do that with Bitcoin. It gets harder. You have to solve harder equations. You have to do more math. You have to have bigger. Back in the day, the laptop that's right here, I have my whole machine, but I have my laptop. You could mine Bitcoin back in 2009 with the power of this laptop. Today, you need a room full of ant miners. You're now worried about energy consumption. You're worried about heat consumption. You're worried about all this. It gets more expensive to create it, and we're taking away the reward. We're cutting the reward in half. That's scarcity. That's the piece that makes it different from every other asset class out there. Real estate's very scarce, right? There's only so many houses that will be built. There's only so much land that exists out there, right? Bitcoin's ultra scarce compared to real estate. And gold is another one, you're Danny Gould, so I got to say it. You add the U, right? Gold it also has a fixed supply, but we can keep mining it. I was just finishing with my daughter the gold rush study for her school. She's in 5th grade. And you could literally go to California and you could go in a river and you'd find nuggets of gold, right? Little nuggets. Now, no way. You have to dig deep. You see these shows that are on National Geographic and Home and Garden. They're like, these guys, they run their whole company around making a narrow margin of mining gold so they can make a profit. It's scarce, but nothing has a fixed supply like Bitcoin. That's what gets me so excited.
Now, I hear you, but then the guy, the contrarian in me is also like, yeah, but Bitcoin is just make-believe money.
So is the US dollar. Between
True.
you and me. I mean,
right. No, true.
This is what we're going through right now with our government right now is so we printed a bunch of money. We pumped it into the government. There's tax dollars. There's tax waste. You see what Elon and others are doing with the Doge concept, but also they're about to audit the Fed. Is the gold still there that backs us? So the US dollar, the way that you build strategic reserves is you have assets that back your currency. So the US has, at one point in time, we had gold. We went off that. We had oil after that. We have a whole bunch of oil sitting around. We have oil reserves. We also have a military, right? We have a Navy and an Air Force that can project power across the world. So those are our 3 tenets. What is Trump and others working on right now? Senator Loomis, Senator Haggerty from Nashville, they want to make a Bitcoin reserve. They want to add another level to that balance sheet of the US dollar. How powerful is the dollar? Well, it's as powerful as you say it is. And it's how powerful is your gold reserve? How powerful is your oil reserve? How powerful is your military? How powerful is your Bitcoin reserve? So the government is shifting, and it's not just the US, it's El Salvador did it entirely. Yeah. Argentina is doing it now. Zimbabwe, I think, is doing it. You've got Ghana doing it. There's a handful of countries that are saying we're in. And within the United States, you have 15 different states, individual states, Arizona and Texas, I think, are on the list, that are saying we're going to hold Bitcoin on the balance sheet as a state because it backs our currency. It backs the value of it. So yeah, fiat money is a fancy way of saying fake money. Bitcoin is internet money. So I'm not gonna deny that. But what it does differently is it's not 6 or 7 guys sitting in a room at the Federal Reserve saying how much money is going to be created or not. It is a consensus-driven concept. And this is what gets people excited. It's the people's currency. And yes, it may not be what we understand as like tangible, fungible money, but it is money in its own way. I mean, we've watched it. I've watched it myself go from $250 a unit to over $100,000 a unit. So there's value somewhere along that line. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. I mean, it's like the concept of like, baseball cards, worthless to people that don't follow baseball, very valuable to people that love baseball, right? Like Pokemon cards. I still tell this story. My mom literally, when I went off to college, threw away a whole slew of Pokemon cards, that I had saved in holographic Charizard.
I did the same thing with all my baseball memorabilia too, man. I feel you.
I was...
Because just like Pokemon and baseball cards, they had down years, right? Where nobody cared anymore. And then all of a sudden, they're creeping back up.
Resurgence.
The only thing I haven't seen creep back up is the Beanie Baby. I don't know if it's going to come back.
Yeah, but to that point, right? Like if it had been, so she's, a thing, a folder full of Pokemon cards thrown in the trash, folder full of dollar bills. Well, she's going to keep that, right? So it's like, hey, like what's the value is in the eye of the beholder. I get that.
How many years ago did she throw it away?
Oh, that was more than 10, 15 probably at this point.
Let's just say 10. Yeah. 10 at an average rate of inflation at 3%. You've already lost 30% of the value of the money that was sitting in that booklet if it was dollars.
Right.
So it
very
goes both
good point.
ways. Yes, we are on a cutting edge of new things, right? Just like you're in the world of, you're a podcaster. This is my 1,127th podcast. This didn't exist. This is not where people went to get their news 5-10 years ago, even 15 years ago. And now I think it's actually become the authoritarian version of knowledge. I watch my wife and what she does. I know what I do for a living. I watch my daughter. She's 11. She watches podcasts. There's things shift over time. And also with Bitcoin, just like gold, it's scarce, but it's also transportable. It's fungible. It's being accepted as currency in a lot of places. I can literally, there are people in the US, not just me, but people in the US that live off of, what they do is they charge their credit cards and then they pay off their credit cards with their Bitcoin. So they live completely as a Bitcoin reserve. If they have $100,000 in savings, it's all Bitcoin. And they spend their stuff. And these people are starting to do this with real estate too, where they're putting the collateral behind the loan of Bitcoin. So these are all shifting dynamics. And Danny, you're a young guy like me. I mean, I'm not that young. You're much younger than me. But if there's anything I learned in my short life, is that you have to be aware of the cutting edge to be able to succeed in this country today. Like you can't just say, oh, my dad used to call it Facebook book face. And like all these, like people were anti-social as it came through. Look at what it does now. It's a whole new ball game. Like, honestly, I buy more of my products off of social media influencers and advertising than I've ever done in my entire life. And so what did I do before that? I went to the newspaper. I saw ads on TV. I think about it as a kid maybe you were a little too young for this, but when we were kids, when my dad was a kid, it was the Sears Roebuck catalog that showed up once a year, and it showed up always right before Thanksgiving. And that was where the kids would tell their parents, this is what I want and that was advertising, right? And then me was the Toys R Us catalog would come, the Christmas catalog in the newspaper, the newspaper. Yep. Now my kid, she's 11, it's all YouTube. Whatever she wants is driven by what has happened. That kid, Ryan's kid that opens up boxes of toys is richer than you and I combined, bro. He's making because the game is changing. So yes, you might think it's funny money, or you might think it's funny to you because you don't understand it. But that's part of the evolution of the world we're living in today.
And I would say, and this is a great reminder even for me, right? Because like the truth is it's hard to invest into something that you don't understand. Yeah. Right. And I think that's kind of like and your message, kind of what I'm hearing you say, Chris, is that like, yeah, fine. You like don't understand it, but you're going to get left in the dust because you've learned over time that if you don't stay close to the cutting edge and you don't kind of like learn and seek to understand, you're going to get left behind.
Yep.
That's what I'm hearing.
And that's true for any asset class. Real estate, which is your audience. Sure. A lot of people are kicking themselves for not getting in 2019, 2020 before rates got crazy and prices got crazy, right?
Well, it depends on what we're talking about here. If we're talking single family homes, and sure, but if we're talking commercial, there's a lot of guys that bought around that time that are going to be really screwed here really quickly, But
commercial's tough. Commercial's tough, man. My office was so I'm from Sherman Oaks, California, and the Sherman Oaks Gallery is at the epicenter of the 101, which goes east-west, and the 405. Which, if you know anything about California, that's like the epicenter of business and commerce. And our offices were grade A. We had the 10th floor, the 11th floor, the 12th floor. We had 180 employees. We had all this stuff. And once COVID hit, I mean, I was a guy that I always believed that I needed to be in an office with people. And I was gung-ho about that. There's no remote. But the game changed. And I changed with the game. And now we, along with other people in the same building, there was like 7 floors. We're down to half of a floor together as our own little WeWork. And that's all we use it for. And so we went from spending probably $150,000 in rent a month to less than $7,000 a month. And I remember something I remember is that the real estate person that was in charge there, can't remember her name, but she was like, if I had her when I was trying to add space in 17, 18, she was like, well, you just take the price. The price is the price. You want the space, you get it, whatever. Right. And now she's still calling me, begging me to take back floors. And I won't do it because most of my staff left. They moved. They live in Boise. They live in Vegas. They live in Phoenix. They live in Colorado. People were able to migrate at a whole nother level. So you're right. Commercial is going to take a hit, but some places storage is still in really good. Do you guys do storage in your audience? Do you guys talk about storage?
Yeah, we've had some storage guys on here and depending on the location and everything, like there are some markets that have been saturated, with storage. I've been seeing, I've been hearing stories and seeing some things that have alluded to like certain markets being kind of saturated or oversaturated with storage, but yeah, storage.
I just left. So in January, there was the fires in California, right? The wildfires. Everybody heard about those, right? Yep. So my daughter's got very sensitive skin and sensitive lungs. So the minute this stuff started getting crazy, we had no power for a week. We had no internet. I'm sitting here in the middle of the night like I'm a Boy Scout trying to convince my wife and kid, like, hey, this is fun. Like, and by the third day, it was like, it's not fun anymore. Like, we need to get out of here. We need to, like, even though we weren't, like, we were, so Sherman Oaks, there was the Palisades fire 7 miles away. There was the Altadena fire 12 miles away. There was all these fires. I felt like I was surrounded by it. So we went to Scottsdale because I had to do a podcast like this with a good friend of mine, Austin Zabek, out there, which you should meet, by the way, Danny. If you haven't met Austin Zabek, I would love to introduce you. He's a killer, dude. The guy is the biggest player in wholesale and direct to retail in Arizona. And I'll plug him all day because he's the nicest guy in the world.
Dude, Austin's great, man.
I went down to do a podcast. I was like, hey, I got to fly out for this. Wife, kid, why don't you guys let's just get out of here. Let's go together. So they drove because we wanted to have a car. You have to have a car. And so they drove, I flew. We ended up there and we were going to stay the weekend and we stayed 2 weeks. And why did we stay 2 weeks, Danny? Not because I wanted to stay 2 weeks, because the deal was so good. Scottsdale is saturated with Airbnbs. It's crazy how many Airbnbs are in Scottsdale right now. I was able to get a 5-bedroom house with a heated pool and all the luxury for less than $900 a week. That was mind blowing to me. But it's because I wasn't there for the TPC, the waste management that gets everybody crazy. I wasn't there for the Barrett Jackson. I was there in the perfect time. And the snowbirds weren't quite there yet. So I got a great deal. Now there's times to make money in all those things, right? But there's also saturated markets too.
Yep. 100%. Yeah. Austin and I actually have known each other for quite some time.
He's the nicest guy in the world, man. Yeah. Oh my God. Have you met his wife, Mo?
Yes. Yeah.
She's so sweet. They're good people, man. They're such good people.
They really are, man. No, he's a great guy. Have you met
Brian Decker down there?
Brian Decker. I have not met Brian Decker. No.
You should check out his Wealth Society. He introduced me to Austin. So I did a podcast with him about a year and a half ago. And he said, hey, Austin would love to have you. And now you're introducing me. This is what I try to do is like keep sharing the word and meeting good people. So are you in Scottsdale? Are you in Arizona?
No, I'm not. But, before I started investing in hotels and, doing the podcasting and everything, I was in residential real estate, and Austin and I were in the same mastermind groups together. And
nice.
We had, so we started a couple like different things together. So we've been close now for a number of years. So he's a great guy. Yeah.
I hope to buy my next house from him.
Yeah. Dude,
I enjoyed the time there. It was a great 2 weeks. Arizona. I mean, if you're a California guy, I'm from Colorado originally, right? So California, I came out here because this was 2012. I went with a one-way ticket in a suitcase. I lived in a motel for the first year to build my first company. But at that time, you had to be in an MSA to make money, right? Colorado, the average income was 40 to 60,000. California was 70 to 80. So I'm doing the math as a kid straight out of college. And I'm like, okay, I got to move somewhere and do something different. And so I came to California, one-way ticket in a suitcase. And now I'm ready to leave because it's the city, not just the city of California, not the city of Los Angeles, but in general, like California, not just the fires or the homeless problems for the last few years or the, like, it's not fun to live here anymore. I got to be honest. Like, but when I went to Arizona for 2 weeks, I'm like, even my daughter was like, Dad, I don't see any graffiti. And there's no and there's no garbage. And I was like, and she's 11, bro. And 11-year-olds are always going to be honest with you. And I was like, you're right, Izzy. This is a different world we're in. She goes, I want to live here. I was like, well, wait till July and then tell me you want to live here. It gets hot. Like it's all different, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome, man. No, I mean, Arizona's a great place and it's definitely different there for sure. I've actually flown out to visit Austin a couple times there and Scottsdale and his team too.
He's like the Wolf of Wall Street of Scottsdale, by the way. I love his setup. If anybody, by the way, on your audience, if anybody's thinking about education and those things, like I would highly recommend. He's invested in his students, right? Yeah. And I know we went on, and I see the time here, so I want to be respectful of your audience. So obviously I'm here as a Bitcoin guy. I can talk about real estate, I can do all these things. Here's the bottom line. If you're thinking about crypto and you want to do something with it in your life, what better place than in a tax deferred or tax free setting? Sure. So explore it with your retirement. And if you're thinking about it with your retirement, call us 877-936-7175. We have a special for the Danny Gold people that it's going to last until April 15th for tax day, but don't hurry just because of the deal and the specials we have, but also because you only have until April 15th to do the tax deadline for last year. So if up until the 15th, you can do, if you're my age, you can do $14,000 or $15,000 tax deferred, lower your tax bill or tax free and get that benefit on the post side right now up until the 15th of April. So take the time, call my guys. These guys have been working with me. One of the things I'm so proud of as just an entrepreneur is that I've had a force of people working to help folks that have been with me for 10 years. We have no churn, no turnover. These guys have been there for years to help folks out. Give us a try. At least have a conversation and see what kind of options are available for you. Is that fair?
Absolutely. And by the way, all the information is going to be in the show notes below the description. So for anyone that wants more details on that, they can get it there. Chris, honestly, this has been great. And I would love to have you on again, in the future. I think that, there's definitely a lot that the audience could gain from someone like you, because you're not just a crypto guy, right? I think like people that are just crypto people,
we're a little weird.
Well, the depth of conversation, outside of like it's not as deep, right? Because people that are crypto people, they're not talking about, tax advantages and, how to structure things. And they mostly don't even understand real estate for the most part, right? Because they're just kind of so focused on that niche. So I appreciate your background, right? Because I think it lends itself to a more to a richer discussion, and a deeper understanding of how crypto can actually benefit people who are just normal people, right? And not necessarily like crypto riverboat gamblers, right? But a couple questions that just came up in my head, right, Chris? So number one, how does Bitcoin IRA make money? I would love to know kind of like what your business strategy is, right? And how you guys go about like, are there fees associated? Are you like, what does that look like typically?
So we make money in a couple of ways, but it's like any other business. We when you deposit funds, there's a deposit fee. Okay. It's usually around less than 1%. And that helps us set up the account for you. We set up these signature wallets that are geographically dispersed. I could go nerdy for 20 minutes about our security. If you want to learn about our security, you can go online or talk to somebody. It is the most robust security in the system because remember, we were the guys that did this first. So I had to go to a bank. I had to go to a trust company and say, hey, I got this crazy idea. I want to custody Bitcoin. And this is 7-8 years ago when nobody even knew what Bitcoin was. And I had to build it in a way that it was like as easy and secure as holding your gold at a depository or in a vault, right? And so that's how we created it. So we have to set that all up. It has cost to it. So that's one way we make money. The second is when people transact, whether they buy or sell or swap. That's another way. What we try to do is for long term, we try to give people the ability to make yield off of their holdings. So we have a lot of hodlers where they either buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, or other things, and they hold them for a long time. So what we put in place, we had it back in 2022, we're bringing it back next quarter, is an ability to make yield off of staking or what's called covered calls. Now, we could probably do a whole session on this, Danny, so I'm not going to dive into it. But these are the tools where we try to help people. Yeah, we have fees, we have to make money, but we try to make money with your money. Not only does Bitcoin keep going up, right? And not always, right? It goes up and down just like housing prices or interest rates. But you also have the ability to make yield off of your existing holdings. So you're gonna win with Bitcoin prices, you're gonna win with Ethereum prices, Ripple price, XRP, whatever it might be. But we're gonna find ways to make you make money with your money, just like somebody that's sitting on cash and trying to make an annuity or whatever it might be. So yeah, those are the three ways that we find a way to make revenue. And being first has been really powerful. I mean, I remember a funny story just as a young entrepreneur. I walked into my office on a random Tuesday. I was late because I had a doctor's appointment. And I walk in and everybody pops out of their cubes. And this is back when we were like 10 guys. And they're like, Chris, we have a problem. And I was like, what's going on? Like, the phone hasn't stopped ringing for 4 hours. And I'm like, that's not a problem. Why are they calling? And it's because somebody at Agora Financial or like Jeff Brown, this group that does like, they have people that pay $1,500, $2,000 a year to get their content, which I wish you and I could do that, right? People pay us $2,000 a year for us to talk. But that's what they built that up. They came and back in 17, they didn't shop us. They opened an account, saw the benefits, saw the processes as everything. And they went and told us, didn't even call me, Danny. Didn't even call me. They just went and put out an expose about us to their clients. And I kid you not, the phone didn't stop ringing for 4 weeks. 4 weeks. I had people working Saturdays, Sundays, after hours, early hours. That's the kind of business that I wanted to build to start with. And I'm really proud that we've carried that same kind of passion about entrepreneurship and helping Americans retire. We're in a retirement crisis. We want to help Americans retire. I got so many stories. Ed Moy is just one of them. I got nurses that thought they were going to work for their whole lives. And now they got to retire early with millions of dollars to travel with their grandkids. I've got a guy named Rocket Ron that got forced out of retirement from NASA because of the 2008 crisis, and he took a big enough hits. He came to us, and within a year, he called me on his re-retirement day. And every year, we re-celebrate his re-retirement day. He texts me every morning. You know what he texts me? The price of Bitcoin every morning. I don't even have to look up the price of Bitcoin because a client texts me with the price of it. That's at the end of the day, and everybody is probably following you is in their own way a businessman or a businesswoman, right?
Sure.
If you can get that kind of love from your client base, you're doing something right, is how I look at it.
Yeah, man, I love that. I think that's super powerful, and especially growing a big company and considering that you still kind of have, your ear to the ground and connecting with the people that are, with your customers.
Was number 11.
What's that?
He was number 11. He calls himself number 11. Yeah. That's him and his wife crashed our holiday party in 21. We had a holiday party. I knew he was coming, but I didn't let anybody else know he was coming. And he walked in and he had a hockey jersey on. He's a big hockey fan. He had a hockey jersey on that said number 11. It was Bitcoin IRA, 11 on the back, 11 on the front. Sick. And he was holding the number 1 jersey that he gave to me as the first holder of the Bitcoin IRA. That's the kind of stuff we do for clients.
That's awesome, man.
No BS. Like this is just what we do for a living. We're so happy about it. My guys, my guys, gals, everybody, we have 180 employees. We wake up every day and it's not hard to wake up because we love what we do.
Yeah. That's awesome, Chris. Well, man, this has been a great episode. Lots of things for me to noodle on. I think I'm sold. I might be one of those people that gives this a go myself. And I don't like to pitch products on the show that I haven't tried, but I knew that you were connected with Austin before, and seems like you've got quite a bit of good reviews online too. So yeah, man, this has been awesome. Chris, before I let you go though, in traditional Gould Mine fashion, we're going to have you leave.
I'm so excited about the nugget.
The audience with one final gold nugget. Take it away.
So Bitcoin is a new set of keys, is the simplest way I'll put it. A lot of people, and maybe not you and I, but a lot of people, especially younger, they feel like they're priced out of the housing market. The American dream is out of reach. Bitcoin gives you a new set of keys. It doesn't come with a down payment. It has no mortgage, and it has the liquidity that you can sell whenever you need to. When with real estate, like a hotel, whatever it might be, you're going to have to deal with liquidity issues. People that I have worked with over the last 7 years have taken the key, there's a key to your wallet in Bitcoin, and they've made it their weapon in changing their lives. So if you're looking for a new set of keys, or if you're just looking for additional keys in your life, take a look at Bitcoin and just think about it. And as a guy that literally lived in a motel for a year of his life to build a company, I remember the key. And actually, I wish I had, it's over there. I saved the key to my motel room because it was something as a memory to me. It was like, remember when you opened the door to a motel room for a year to build this? And now I opened the door to a house. And with Bitcoin, I'll open the door to multiple houses, multiple investments. So think about it like a key to a new opportunity, and just give it a try. Get off zero. Give it, if it's $1,000, let's see what happens. Right?
Yeah. No, I love that, man. That's awesome. I think it's great advice. Yeah, no, I really have appreciated your time here, Chris. I think, you've given the viewers something new to think about, right? Something novel. And it was spicy. Well,
thanks for having me, Dingany. It's been a real pleasure, buddy.
All right, brother. Appreciate you, man.